Hola, welcome to Rauta. This time we have a band, an old one, a classic band from Spain, and this is Avulsed. A band that has been around since the early 90s and done quite a few albums, but not without some bumps on the road, meaning there was quite a bit of time since the previous albums by the band. Frankly said, I kind of forgot even the existence of the band for these reasons. I mean, some 20 years ago I reviewed a couple of their albums and so forth, but somehow in 2000s, later on that is, the band somehow escaped my attention and faded away. That's what happens in these days when you're constantly bombarded by new bands, new albums and all that stuff. So if you're not available doing new albums or touring or whatnot, you tend to get kind of a bit of forgotten. But that's not because Avulsed is a bad band. By no means, it's quite the opposite. It just means that sometimes to be relevant, you have to be out there. So without further ado, let's go for Metal Archive site for Avulsed, who have been here more than 30 years, 1991. You can pretty much imagine that Spain in 1991 wasn't exactly the capital of death metal, while Americas, especially United States, had their things going on from very early on, from 1980s and so forth. In Europe, things were a little bit different. Maybe in Nordic countries such as Sweden and Finland, death metal was doing well already in the very beginning of 90s, having a little bit of those ideas coming from the 80s. I mean, after all, we had even Darkthrone from Norway from 80s. But apart from that, there was not too much going on in the very early 90s. And I'm talking very early as 1991 when Avulsed from Madrid was founded. So the next year they came up with demos and all. So a few years later, Eminence in Putrescence 1996. So maybe a little bit late to the party in terms of first album, but still, this is one of the very, very first important death metal bands coming from Spain. Correct me if I'm wrong. So obviously they made waves over the years, meaning a few albums, well, couple, but let's say a lot of releases through the 90s, and then overall early 2000s they were active with albums coming every few years. But somehow things started slowing down, and 2016, Degeneration was for a long time their latest album. So took like 9 years for them to kind of come back. I mean, it's not like they were ever totally away. They didn't break up or anything like that, but something might give you a little bit of indication what's going on. If you look at this current lineup, it just shows one original vocalist, Dave Rudden from 1991 and so forth. The rest of the guys 2023 and 2024. Sounds dubious. If you look at the past members, you will see quite a few members here. Some of the old members were gone in 2024 or a lot earlier. So a lot of changes from the 90s to 2024. So I guess this kind of explains the hiatus of sorts. But we're not here to recap the full band. We're here focusing on their latest album, Phoenix Cryptobiosis. This one is kind of a classic death metal album in so many ways. I mean, let's be honest about it here. They are not definitely reinventing the wheel. With 44 minutes, 11 tracks, you pretty much get the idea. You have like 3 to 4 minute tracks overall through the whole stuff, and what they are doing is still old school death metal. I would say rather traditional. To a lot of people, this might sound like, okay, what we are dealing with here with some level of brutality and all is like a Spanish version of Cannibal Corpse. And I would say you're probably quite right. Nothing here reeks of originality. Nothing real reeks like, hey, we're going to do something different, something new, something revolutionary. More like stick to your guns, you know. And that's what's happening with this album. But this is not without buts. The overall problem is the songs are not that good. I mean, overall, this is pretty decent of an album. Whether we're talking about the production, the growly vocals, or songwriting, individual riffs and air, it is all right there. You really can't bitch about it that. I mean, after all, if you are a death metal fan, I think this album pretty much delivers those, blasts in a proper way. But when we are comparing this to, say, some bigger, some more successful bands, you will start noticing the differences. Avulsed is doing just fine job, but is just fine okay when you're looking for some kind of a platinum star masterpieces, the bullseye albums, which are definitely gonna be the future classic ones. I would say Avulsed has nothing wrong on this album. But like I said, it doesn't really stand out from the gray mass. Apart from the very basic, good songwriting, totally fine, growly vocals and all, nothing here is really yeah, this is gonna be the future classic. So to me, it kind of sounds, this is, and by no means I mean negativity, the kind of a B-class Cannibal Corpse in so many ways. So if you're a big death metal fan, obviously you want to check this one out and you will probably like it, more or less, quite a bit. But if you're looking for some kind of a milestone album, this is not that, unfortunately. So while the band is still decent and doing strong and all that stuff, I would say they have done better albums in the past. Maybe worse too, but that goes beyond the scope of this review. Now, for Death Metal Maniacs, this is a must-listen album, despite whatever the naysayers might be giving these somewhat low scores here. I think it's a lot better, but not just great. So, for death metal fanatics, a must-hear, and those who are not that much into death metal, but more like casual listeners to the genre, maybe not so much, but listen and find out if you're into it. All the links are provided in the description box. So, off you go and enjoy.